Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost, it is with great pleasure that I present Sara Wajid as an honorary graduand. Sara is a leader of genuine professional transformation of the arts sector and one of the most influential and inspiring women working in the heritage sector today. She has over 20 years of experience in the fields of museums and heritage, holding a series of important positions at major museums, and is currently the co-CEO of Birmingham Museums Trust. Over these years, she has worked tirelessly both within her roles and outside of her paid role to improve diversity in the arts in terms of workers and managers and of the audiences cultural heritage institutions engage with. I am personally inspired by her incredible commitment to intersectionality in the museum sector and her keen sense of collaboration, play, and creativity in her practice. When applying for CEO of Birmingham Museums Trust, she decided that doing it alone lacked joy. Instead, she invited another member of the global ethnic majority, Zach Mensah, to apply with her. They were successful, and as co-CEOs, their collaborative leadership has led the museums to become more useful to more people. Phenomenally active and responsive to their local communities, hosting critical conversations about decolonizing museums and vibrant multicultural events. Her ability to lift others as she is rising is also exemplified by her work as one of the founders and conveners of Museum Detox in 2014. Museum Detox is a network for people of color who work in museums, galleries, libraries, archives, and the heritage sector. The vision espoused by Museum Detox is to empower and support each other to heal, to be ourselves, and to reclaim our history. We collectively learn ways to practice self and community care, collective action, and solidarity. Through our self-actualization, we will inspire a more equitable museums and cultural heritage sector. This network has grown to over 600 members and is internationally recognized as a passionate, dedicated network of museum professionals who can collectively transform our understanding of our past, our communities, and ourselves. Sara has strengthened the pipeline for members of the global majority who are minoritized within the UK context to progress towards leadership positions, working toward real progress in diversity, inclusion, and representation. In addition to Museum Detox, she also co-founded Space Invaders. It's an ambitious program for change aiming to help women into leadership positions, to bring workplace equality, and to ensure women's stories are heard in museums. Sara has not always been in museums. She read honors English at the University of Sussex and received an MA in comparative literature from the School of Oriental and African Studies. She was a freelance arts journalist and cultural commentator, writing for UK and international news sources. Her career in museums began around the time of the bicentenary of the abolition of the transatlantic slave trade, emerging as one of a new generation of museum practitioners experimenting with the representation of empire in British museums. She co-curated The Past Is Now, Birmingham and the British Empire, 2017 to 2018, an experiment in decolonizing museum curation that aimed to blend radical critique by seasoned cultural activists with democratic museum practice by experienced museum professionals in the Birmingham Museum. During the exhibition, a young black man holding a beautiful newborn baby was walking around the display. He came to the museum to show his son the exhibitions, how The Past Is Now made the museum relevant to him. He asked, "Why would I come if the stories weren't for me?" Sara's co-curated intervention demonstrated how the museum is for everyone. This exhibition is now considered a keystone for all subsequent work in British museums to demonstrate good practice for building community ties. For this work, she has been awarded an MBE in 2019 for services to culture and diversity. The nomination of Sara Wajid as an honorary graduate reflects York's position as an established global center of heritage learning and innovation, and our commitment to diversity and inclusion for the public good. Sara came to speak in York in 2018 as part of the Department of Archaeology's Heritage Research Seminar Program. Her dialogue with Rayanne King, former CEO of York Museums Trust, explored their backgrounds, their work as change makers within museum detox, community engagement, intersectionality, class privilege, and anti-racism in heritage contexts. This conversation sparked intense interest from students who clamored to speak with Sara, but I managed to corner her in the pub, where I found not just a fervent and excellent heritage practitioner, but a leader of great grace, wisdom, and humor. Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost, for her incredible dedication to museums and heritage, culture and diversity in the United Kingdom, and her work in organizing and democratizing museums for all, I present Sara Wajid for the degree of Doctor of the University, honoris causa.
By the power vested in me by the University of York, it's my pleasure to confer on you the degree of Doctor of the University honoris causa. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I don't think I was quite prepared for how moving the ceremony would be to watch all of you graduating and crossing this stage in this incredibly significant moment in your lives, and this expression of potent, shy pride on all of your faces for this incredible moment. It's quite something. The organ is also quite a big emotional kind of prod. I'm just reaching deep in this interesting sleeve, not for a magic trick, but for my notes here. So, first of all, thank you hugely to Colleen Morgan for nominating me. Colleen and I have met only once in person before today, and it's an extraordinary thing to put aside quite a lot of your time and your power and your resources to embrace and support and lift up another person for no good reason other than you want to publicly say, keep on trucking. And I just thank her hugely for that, and to the whole university. Also, I'd like to say thank you to Suzanne Thorne, who organised everything so beautifully and put up with endless inquiries from me. So, I don't have much time, I'll get to it. You've made brilliant choices in your subjects. Obviously, you know that because you have dedicated a huge amount of your lives and time and energy to it. I congratulate you all hugely. I'm an English literature graduate who is now a museum director, so I feel like I'm amongst my people. And listening to some of the subjects of your research and the focus was incredibly uplifting to hear the breadth and scope and depth of work, the imagination in this room, you know, the creativity, the research, the scholarship. It's vibrating in here with ideas and kind of capacity, which is, it's really thrilling to be around. I spend most of my time around other middle-aged, you know, administrators and bureaucrats like myself, a bit beleaguered after many years in the public sector. So this is a real shot in the arm just to be in your presence. And thank you very much to the babies who are here as well. I don't see enough babies in the world. This is great. So one of the things, your skills that you're developing, that you have developed, is as English literature students being attuned to subtext. Archaeology people are reading the world. You are reading and critically engaging and investigating. And most of all, you are storytellers. And that is an incredibly good skill to have. It's a skill that I use, probably the single most important skill in my job day to day. And the subjects that I read, the people that I read, the intellectual stimulation that I received at this time in my study, the equivalent time that you're going through now, was incredibly formative, very intellectually important for me. I might have emotionally developed a little bit since then, I hope. That was 25 years ago. ago, but probably not intellectually very much. Virginia Woolf and Frantz Fanon were probably the two biggest thinkers that inform, you know, and you can see a golden thread from them straight to my vision for Birmingham Museums Trust today. And I read them 25 years ago, and they absolutely shaped me. So, hugely important. Museums are 3D storytelling machines in which we use the past to imagine a better future. That's why I'm passionate about them. Let me tell you a little backstory about how what I want to share with you today, which is really about asking strangers for help, finding something that makes you feel brave enough to ask strangers for help. And for me, the museum was the place that sparked something different. I grew up in the 70s in a time when isms were very common. Sexism, racism, homophobia, all of those were just daily routine parts of our lives. And in the local park where I used to live, wasn't particularly safe. I grew up not that far from where Stephen Lawrence was murdered. And when me and my brother would go to the park, it wasn't that comfortable. It wasn't as playful as it should be for children. But when we went to the museum, we went to the Natural History Museum, and my brother, who's a particularly bookish little boy then, would just play and come alive in the museum in an incredible way. We once met, those of you who are about my age might remember Johnny Morris. He was a legend. Think of, like, if you don't know him, think of David Attenborough, but who can also do funny voices and animal impressions. That was Johnny Morris. He was our absolute legend and hero, and we met him in the Natural History Museum. And we would run and play around and hide and seek. And my brother demonstrated kind of a curiosity about the world, a swagger and awe in those places, which I wouldn't see in the local park. And so that made me realize there was some great power here in the museum, this 3D storytelling machine. There was great joy, there was great capacity, there was something special going on in these environments that we thrived in and we loved. But there was also something pernicious and a bit odd, something that I later came to recognize and be learnt to call ideological state apparatus. Something was not quite right. And when years later I got to the museum as a worker, I realized that that creeping feeling was there again, the unsafe as I felt in the park, that bit of unsafety. But there weren't skinheads, there were snooty curators who might sort of poo-poo my ideas or wonder why I was moaning on about why there wasn't more about the opium wars in the galleries. And I thought, well, I need to feel safe, and I need to get help to feel safe. So how will I feel safer and swagger around like everybody else does? I will find my compatriots. So I asked for help from strangers. I put a call out to people of colour working in museums all over London. I said, please meet me in the pub. I just don't feel quite right enough, and I bet you don't either. So we all came together. 10 years later now, it's the 10-year anniversary of Museum Detox. And as Colleen said, there's more than 600 people. And we started to feel safer. And actually, what we also started to do was, and I noticed in myself, I had no embarrassment about asking for help from strangers for anything for Museum Detox. I'm not a parent, but I've seen this in parents. They'll do shameless things for children with no sense of embarrassment whatsoever. I'm sometimes cringing and appalled at how much people can do, but they have this incredible bravery. And I suppose I got this feeling from wanting things for Museum Detox, wanting things for us and our solidarity, because I had this burning thing where I wanted to reshape the world, reshape society and my patch of it, so that people, children like myself and my brother, could walk taller and feel as we should feel in the world. And this Museum Detox energy, this asking strangers for help, it just seemed to keep working. I'd ask the strangers for help, and they would just keep giving it. Again, Colleen nominating me for this is another sort of example of a virtual stranger giving help for something that we believed in. So, in Birmingham, fast forward, I met Zach Mensa through the Museum Detox network, and again, I wanted a job. I wanted the job of Director of Birmingham Museums Trust. But I thought, bit of a stretch. And also, will it be joyful, as Colleen said? So he was a virtual stranger to me, but I'd met him through the Museum Detox network, and I asked him for help. Do you want to do this job together with me? And he said yes, and we've been doing it together for 3 years. I am the first Asian museum director of Birmingham Museums Trust, and indeed of any major museum in the UK. And Zach is only the second black director. So together we are a very unusual pairing, and we're trying to make an anti-racist museum in Birmingham. So I think that what I've noticed is that now Birmingham is bankrupt, unfortunately. You might have read that in the news. And again, you know, the bullies are circling, and we have to protect the museum and protect our vision for an anti-racist museum. And in order to do that, we must ask strangers for help. And we must find the bravery to ask strangers for help. And we are doing that all the time because that's what we believe in and that's what we're trying to achieve in the museum. And although there are lots of economic pressures on us as cultural leaders, on all people working in the public sector at the moment, we must find solidarity. And we must find solidarity with those who believe what we also believe in, because we achieve much more together, as you all have done coming here together in your studies, in your scholarship. There will be so many people, no doubt, who have circled you and supported you and given you solidarity to get where you are today. And so this is really just a little tale about that and the power of solidarity and what we're trying to do in Birmingham, and in a sense that all originated from my brother, who was the original member of Museum Detox.